Everyone's seen NFL highlights, one-handed catches, impossible runs, and quarterbacks getting folded like laundry on Sunday. But what the NFL doesn't show you? The brawls, cheap shots, sideline sucker punches, and the downright filthy fights that the league tries to bury deeper than a Cleveland playoff win. These aren't your usual scuffles. These are the moments that got players fined, suspended, tackled by coaches, or escorted off the field like misbehaving nightclub guests. So here it is, the dirtiest fights the NFL hopes you forget. Number 10, Andre Johnson versus Cortland Finnegan. The helmet comes off fight, 2010. It was supposed to be just another AFC South matchup, Texans versus Titans. But when Cortland Finnegan's on the field, routine is never on the menu. For years, Finnegan had built a reputation as the NFL's certified annoyance. Trash talker, jersey grabber, face mask tugger, the kind of guy who'd poke a bear just to complain when it roared back. Midway through the game, he decided to pick on Andre Johnson, a soft-spoken receiver built like he was carved out of Houston concrete. It was a big mistake. Finnegan jabbed Johnson in the helmet. Johnson shoved back and helmets flew. Then Johnson unleashed a two-piece combo so clean it could have been scored by boxing judges. The refs tried separating them, but at that point Johnson wasn't fighting Finnegan. He was fighting years of touchdowns called back, bad quarterbacks, and AFC South frustration. Both players were ejected. Fines rained down. Fans replayed the punches like it was a pay-per-view event. And the league pretended it was an unfortunate incident, even though everybody knew they secretly loved the ratings. If two players throwing bare-knuckle punches were wild, the next one involved a helmet swinging like a medieval weapon. Number 9, Myles Garrett versus Mason Rudolph. The helmet swing heard round the world, 2019. Thursday Night Football, Steelers versus Browns. A game that should have ended quietly until it exploded into one of the most infamous brawls in NFL history. With seconds left, Myles Garrett sacked Mason Rudolph. A little tugging, a little shoving, a little get off me, bro. Nothing new. Until Rudolph grabbed Garrett's helmet and tried to rip it off. Garrett said, "Fine, let's play that game." Yanked Rudolph's helmet off instead and held it above his head like Thor calling down lightning. Only he didn't call down lightning. He swung the helmet and clipped Rudolph in the head. Within seconds, offensive linemen stormed in like bodyguards. Players were diving into piles, and the broadcast team sounded like they were commentating a street fight on ESPN 8. Garrett was suspended indefinitely, later set to 6 games. Rudolph was fined, and the league pretended they'd never seen chaos before. Even though the clip was being replayed worldwide like a viral UFC knockout, it wasn't just dirty. It was history. The only time an NFL helmet doubled as a blunt weapon. If a flying helmet was shocking, wait until you see what happened when two entire teams treated midfield like the world's angriest family reunion. Number 8, the 49ers-Raiders preseason brawl that ended a rivalry, 2011. Most preseason games feel like warm-ups. This one felt like a prison riot with better lighting. It was 49ers versus Raiders, two fan bases separated by a bridge, united only in mutual hatred. By halftime, the stadium atmosphere was less family fun and more don't make eye contact. Inside the stadium, fights broke out in the stands, the concourse, the parking lot, everywhere except the actual field, where the football was surprisingly the least violent part of the night. One Raiders fan was beaten in a restroom. Another was shot in a parking lot. Multiple brawls were recorded, including groups throwing punches so wildly it looked like everyone was fighting ghosts. The NFL and both franchises were so embarrassed they did something unheard of. They canceled the rivalry permanently. No more 49ers versus Raiders preseason games, all because the fans threw hands harder than the teams ever did. It wasn't just dirty, it was historic. A fight so chaotic it rewrote scheduling. If fans going rogue caused the league to rearrange the calendar, the next incident showed what happens when players turn the sideline into a battlefield. Number 7, D'Angelo Hall versus Deuce Latui, the sideline takedown, 2010. Washington versus Arizona seemed harmless enough until D'Angelo Hall made a tackle he probably shouldn't have celebrated. As he stood over the ball carrier, John like he was auditioning for WWE, Cardinals guard Deuce Latui, who outweighed Hall by roughly the size of a refrigerator, sprinted in and bulldozed Hall off his feet. Hall flew backward like someone unplugged his controller. Enraged, Hall jumped up and went after Latui, swinging at him despite the size mismatch. Teammates tried holding him back, but Hall wasn't having it. He went after Latui again and again, at one point dragging half of Washington's sideline with him. The best part was Hall later blamed the fight on ghost trash talk, claiming Latui said something awful, even though no mic picked up anything except Hall screaming like he was chasing a $10,000 fine. Both teams got warnings. Both players got penalized, and fans got one of the funniest mismatch fights in NFL history. But if a lineman versus a cornerback was a mismatch, the next brawl was pure chaos. Two teams, one quarterback slide, and the dirtiest late hit of the decade. Number 6, the Steelers-Browns quarterback slide brawl. Ben Roethlisberger gets launched, 2009. Steelers versus Brown games are never friendly. They're legally classified as collision events with football decorations. During one matchup in 2009, Ben Roethlisberger scrambled, slid, and did everything quarterbacks are taught to do to avoid contact. Linebacker Marcus Bernard ignored all of that and lit him up anyway, burying Big Ben into the turf like he was planting crops. The Steelers exploded, and the Browns exploded back. Within seconds, both sidelines rushed in. Defensive backs were throwing punches, linemen were wrestling, and the refs were stuck in the middle like parents breaking up two kids who absolutely inherited their anger issues from dad. Penalties flew, flags flew, and so did a few helmets, though not in the Myles Garrett way. The fight lasted so long, the broadcast replayed different camera angles like it was a documentary on poor life choices. The league handed out fines like Oprah giving away cars. You get a fine. You get a fine. Everyone gets a fine. Dirty? Absolutely. Avoidable? Absolutely not. This was Steelers-Browns after all. If a dirty hit on a sliding quarterback can ignite a mob, the next fight proved that sometimes even special teams turns into MMA classes with helmets on. Number 5, the New York Giants versus Carolina Panthers. Odell versus Norman meltdown, 2015. Giants versus Panthers in 2015 wasn't a football game. This was a 3-hour boxing match with a football occasionally nearby. Odell Beckham Jr. and Josh Norman, two elite talents, one matchup, zero self-control. From the first quarter, they were at each other's throats. Shoves after the whistle, grabbing face masks, trash talk so loud the microphones practically blushed, and one moment where they circled each other like two velociraptors deciding who gets the last piece of meat. Then came the hit. OBJ sprinted across the field and speared Norman helmet first, launching himself like a guided missile. Flags flew everywhere. Twitter melted. Commentators acted like society was collapsing. By the end, OBJ had 3 personal fouls, Norman had 2. Both teams were on the verge of rioting, and Tom Coughlin looked like he aged 12 years in one afternoon. The league suspended OBJ for a game and fined both players. But the fight became a cultural moment. The NFL version of two guys who definitely needed therapy instead of football. And while OBJ and Norman nearly started a 2-man civil war, the next incident saw entire special teams units join a brawl that spilled across half the field. Number 4. The Seahawks-Jaguars Victory Formation Brawl, 2017. Victory formation is supposed to be the safest, calmest play in football. The universal signal for, we're done here, good night everybody. But apparently, nobody told the Seattle Seahawks. Down by multiple scores as the Jaguars kneeled the ball, Seattle's defensive linemen refused to accept defeat and charged the line, crashing into Jacksonville players as if it were a goal line stand in the fourth quarter of a playoff game. The Jaguars immediately fought back. Offensive linemen swung at defenders. Shoves turned into punches, and a simple kneel down transformed into a full-blown scrum. Then Michael Bennett jumped into the chaos, followed by Sheldon Richardson, and eventually half the Seahawks defense. When the referees finally restored order, the situation somehow got worse. Another brawl broke out on the sidelines, where furious Seahawks players had to be physically restrained by coaches and security as Jaguars fans heckled from the stands. One Seattle player even tried climbing into the crowd, because why fight 11 players when you can fight 70,000? Fines hit both teams. 2 Seahawks were ejected, and the league had to review one of the pettiest and most unnecessary victory formation meltdowns ever recorded. But if a fight during a kneel down was insane, the next one involved a taunt, a shove, and 2 teams crashing into each other like medieval armies. Number 3. The Titans-Ravens Midfield Logo War 2020. This one didn't even happen during a play. It started before the game. Several players ran straight to the Ravens midfield logo and began stomping on it like they were rehearsing a halftime show called How to Start a Fight 101. Baltimore head coach John Harbaugh was instantly furious. He marched across the field, shouting directly into players' faces, while Tennessee safety Kevin Byard shouted back. Within seconds, both teams were chest to chest. Coaches jumped in, players pushed, and referees sprinted over looking like chaperones trying to break up a school dance fight. The tension didn't stay in warm-ups. It leaked straight into the game. Every tackle felt personal. Every hit landed with extra enthusiasm. And the trash talk could have been powered by the entire Baltimore electrical grid. The Ravens eventually got their revenge in the playoffs later that season, dancing on the Titans logo after eliminating them, completing one of the pettiest and most iconic beef cycles in recent NFL history. No punches were thrown, but the hostility was so palpable that even the cameras seemed uncomfortable. If logo stomping can start a battlefield, the next fight shows that sometimes the dirtiest moments happen when a player throws hands at someone who isn't even wearing a helmet. Number 2, Antonio Brown versus the entire Steelers sideline. The Gatorade Tantrum 2017. Most NFL fights involve at least 2 players. This one involved 1 player and literally everything around him. During a heated Steelers versus Ravens matchup, Antonio Brown was visibly frustrated by double teams, missed throws, and an overall rough afternoon. So he did what any calm and reasonable wide receiver absolutely would not do. He roundhouse kicked a Gatorade cooler, not nudged it, not tipped. He launched it like he was auditioning for a Street Fighter reboot. Moments later, Brown began screaming at offensive coordinator Todd Haley, gesturing wildly until teammates stepped in to prevent him from accidentally hitting a staff member. A teammate or a poor cameraman doing his job. The funniest part was that the Gatorade cooler became the star of the moment, instantly turning into a meme, a GIF, and a cultural artifact, edited into anime fight scenes across social media. There were no suspensions, just hefty fines, and Pittsburgh's PR department working overtime to explain why their star receiver had just gone to war with hydration equipment. But if Antonio Brown versus a cooler was iconic, the number 1 moment is pure NFL chaos. A hit so dirty, so outrageous, and so unexpected that it instantly became the gold standard for, what did I just watch? Moments. Number 1. Mike Evans versus Marshawn Lattimore. The suspension hit from the blind side, 2017. Some rivalries are friendly. Saints versus Buccaneers is absolutely not one of them. During a tense matchup, Saints corner Marshawn Lattimore began jawing with quarterback Jameis Winston on the sideline. Winston poked Lattimore in the back of the helmet, leading Lattimore to shove him. A small, fairly normal NFL scuffle. Then Mike Evans entered the chat. From across the field, Evans sprinted full speed and absolutely blasted Lattimore from behind, sending him flying like a human missile fired without warning. The hit was so violent that the broadcast immediately cut to commercial, as if the network needed a moment to breathe. Benches cleared, players shoved, and the referees unleashed every flag they had. The Saints were furious. The Buccaneers collectively pretended they didn't really see what happened, and Mike Evans jogged away like he'd just finished a normal day at work. The league suspended Evans for one game and warned both teams that next time they'd start handing out suspensions like Oprah. You get one, everyone gets one. The rivalry has stayed toxic ever since, with annual shoves, ejections, and at least 2 guaranteed arguments per season. If these fights prove anything, it's that the NFL isn't just touchdowns and highlights, it's chaos, grudges, and players throwing hands like it's a part-time job. From helmet swings to logo wars to Gatorade getting knocked out, these moments show that the NFL's dirtiest fights don't always happen in scrums. Sometimes they happen in places the cameras try not to look. Which fight do you think was the dirtiest? Drop it in the comments. And click here for the next video to see even more NFL chaos they never show on TV.